you're from Vienna and
Yeah.
you went to school here. Did you learn about Austrian economics here at school?
Not even at university level. It was just then from I did a master in Denmark and had a lot of time to read, and so I grabbed a book of Mises and started reading. But here at the university...
You studied economics here in Vienna?
I studied economics here in Vienna. Yeah.
That's interesting. I thought it was only in the United States where they didn't teach Austrian economics.
No.
Here in the heart of the Mises and Menger and everybody else, they don't teach it in the university. Is that changing now, or...?
Not to my knowledge. The problem is that especially the faculty of the Department of Economics is more and more turning a Department of Mathematics. And actually we see that most debates are very narrow, both at the university, also in the public level, even though there are here and there now some Austrian economists who are heard. But at university level, I think it's very meager.
What about within government? I mean, the logic of Austrian economics is so compelling. It makes so much good common sense. Is there a greater acceptance now in government? In the United States, for example, the advocate there has been, as I'm sure you're aware, Ron Paul. Is there someone like that here in Austria?
No. And one must not forget that monetary debates here are at the European level, or at least at the Eurogroup level, so we don't have an autonomous monetary policy anymore. So this hinders also debates at that level. So basically I think it's among lay persons you see an actually dramatic increase in interest in Austrian economics, but also in various other non-orthodox economic thinkers, which I think first of all is a positive sign. So people try to break up certain narrow limits on thinking. But if there was a debate, then in Germany you have it now a little bit with Frank Schäffler of the FDP, who is drawing on Austrian economics. So but again,
you're saying that Austrians are happy with the way things are working in the Eurozone?
No, definitely not. But even though this would not be now the general statement of an Austrian economist, but I think in the end it's also a political problem. If, for example, Germany decided, and I'm now using Germany as an example because they are a huge country, Austria as a small country has not so much influence. If they would decide to break out of the Eurozone, then they could do it and re-establish a D-Mark, maybe based or hopefully based on insights of the Austrian School of Economics. But again, in the Eurozone, then you have the problem, people with different languages. I mean, there cannot be a public debate. First of all, also because of language barriers. So this, in the end, in the Eurozone would mean that you try to have an autonomous monetary policy again, which means the breakup of the euro.
Yeah. Do you address the issue of the euro in your book?
No, because I'm basically debating it from a very general theoretical level, but written for a lay person, so that everybody gets a first idea what is wrong. And I don't want to, I'm actually not presenting now blueprints for reform. I'm more or less, I'm hoping that in various parts of Europe or in Austria, the people sit together, start to think and try to find their own ways, which hopefully are based on these ideas. But if they find better solution, the better.
What about gold? How do you see gold in the monetary system?
I'm writing with a friend of mine on a book on the gold standard in a very broad sense. And I read a lot of books now of the 19th century. I was very surprised that in the 19th century, during the gold standard, the money supply increased dramatically. Mostly through the commercial banking system, but not only, because there was hardly any 100% backing. I think that the debate is important, but I'm looking at it again from a more general level. I think that we need to find, many people not only feel but also understand that our current economic setup or institutions are fundamentally wrong in the sense that they create these permanent ups and downs. And if we find a solution using gold, that's fine. I'm more for silver because purchasing power is lower, so you can also use it for everyday life. And I think that people should use coins again, having the money really in their hands and not just a money certificate. But gold could definitely play a role in a new institutional arrangement, especially for international trade, where this purchasing power argument does not hold if you have wholesale trades and of this.
Yeah. Huerta de Soto's book, Money, Banking, and Economic Cycles, does a very good job of analyzing, the 19th century and particularly Peel's Bank Act in the UK and the implications, of that. Just, turning back to solutions again. Do you see politicians coming up with solutions to today's monetary imbalances, or are we going to go from crisis to crisis to crisis until eventually, the whole house of cards comes tumbling down?
First of all, on the positive side, there are people now like Frank Schäffler, member of the German Bundestag and various other parliaments, who I would say they have very sound monetary ideas of sound money, which they hopefully could implement. But again, I think it also would need time. So in the short run, I'm very pessimistic. In the long run, I'm quite optimistic, because among young people, again, you see a break-up, renewed interest in ideas. But in the short run, again, and now I'm defending some politicians, what can you do? That's really also the problem. I mean, if you find out as a minister that, okay, things go absolutely wrong, how can you communicate this to the population and also within the European Union? I mean, it would immediately mean that you had to leave the Eurozone, which I think is not a negative way, but again, then you have to come up with, again, a political solution, how European countries would then coordinate their political existence. So I think from a long-term perspective, the short-term problems are not as important. I would not put too much emphasis on short-term political solutions.